keep talking about fucking anti-religious sentiment and Nazis. That seems to be the only thing we talk about in this podcast.
Well, I think mainly because, and this is the reason why, like you said, so many of these people, so many of these like amazing thinkers came out of things like the Holocaust, because it's probably the fucking one of the worst things that happened. The fact that it happened, the fact that it was a real thing, a real historical event, not some sort of like written up like sci-fi fantasy, like beeline, throws everything else into like such crazy relief, doesn't it? It just makes everything, it's just such a massive fucking statement that people have to rethink everything else. Like all their value orders they now have a new benchmark for bad. So it means you have to reevaluate everything.
Yeah. And the fact that it's real is more uncomfortable than worse things you could imagine in fantasy. I don't know how you could imagine the worst thing, but let's say you could. And it happened in Lord of the Rings, everyone lost, because there was some silver lining in the Holocaust in the fact that people survived. The Third Reich fell, and people got to tell their stories and hopefully see how history goes. It never happens again. But let's say in Middle Earth, Sauron conquers everything and the land grows dark and all this bollocks. You just go, okay, I don't care as much. Okay, it's slightly evocative, and I was enthralled in the story, but I've come out of the story now. Truth is more scary than fiction.
Well, yeah, and well, it's actual evil, and the fact that it was perpetrated by people. And again, another fucking amazing book, Ordinary Men, where it talks about how these people who were like 45-year-old ex-policemen became like genocidal murderers, and the process that sort of went through is just a fucking crazy revelation.
Have you read Hannah Arendt?
I have not. I'll add that onto my fucking dystopian, jarring book list that I read before I go to sleep at night.
She wrote very prolifically about ethics. As The Banality of Evil, that's the book I'm thinking of.
Ah, I've heard of that. Yeah, I haven't read it though.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I know what it's about. It's about how boring and like bureaucratic the people were at the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, literally, she's talking about Eichmann, and she's saying, and she's saying that this is worse than the cartoony Sauron. She doesn't talk about Sauron, but it's worse than.
It'd be so much better if she did.
Yeah, no, but it's worse than any this cartoony idea. I think this is why high fantasy is no longer like. I think people do generally grow out of a lot of high fantasy. I'll love talking until the day I can't read or play video games or watch films anymore. But any other high fantasy, I'm just like, no, because like what evil? The evil doesn't exist in that form. When something's like, describe something as being covered in the shadow of evil, it's like, well, evil is a moral choice. Evil is boring. Evil is not an energy field surrounding a necromancer. Evil is something that normal people can commit, and that makes it much more terrifying.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is no one does something going, I'm being really evil right now, and it's like there's some instances like there was a terrorist attack that happened in Spain where they took a big van and they put it down the middle of La Ramblas in Barcelona, just literally full of people, and just rammed the van down there. And you're like, how can people do that? But they're not thinking I'm doing this to be evil. They're thinking I'm doing this because there's going to be some better good at the other end. No one does something thinking they're doing that to be fucking Darth Vader, and that's the scary thing.
Yeah, it's like the slave trade. You have to believe then that racism isn't something that's just kind of arbitrarily falls down from the sky and knocks people on the head, and people go, oh, bit of racism, I'll have that. It's something a lot more complicated, and you can't say that everybody that lived in the 18th century was evil. It's like, what was that? Like a biological, was that an epidemic? Was everyone unlucky? Was everyone just born evil? No, it's something to do with the fact that normal people can very easily commit evil acts without knowing.
Well, it's like, I can't remember if it's your boy Viktor Frankl or your boy Alexander Solzhenitsyn, but it's like, he says like the line of evil runs through the middle of every man. And it's just, yeah, we all have the potential to be evil. Like, it's the fact that, hey, look, given the right set of circumstances, you would shoot a Jewish family, and that's so much less palatable than just saying there are people who are evil human beings. because that's probably not true.
Mm.
Even though people do fucking unspeakable evil things.
Anyway, on that cheery note.